Welcome to Crown TV. Immerse yourself with a captivating audio from our stories. We provide an alternative way to read books in audio. We upload many audiobooks as possible, from bestsellers to timeless classic. Subscribe and stay tuned for new upload.
Episode 21, The Mysterious Girl. Zara covered her face and looked at Karen in disbelief. "I can't believe you hit me because of that loser. It was obvious that I was sticking up for you." Zara's words just now could have easily caused her to miss out on Alex's fortune. If only she could get Alex, her life would change massively for the better. For Karen, who was obsessed with marrying into a rich family, losing this opportunity just wasn't acceptable. Zara continued, "I'm doing you a favor right now, you know." "What are you talking about? Alex is my boyfriend now. Zara, please treat him with respect," Karen said as she walked toward Alex. She snuggled up against Alex's chest and glared at Zara. Alex also hadn't expected Karen to stand up for him against Zara. If he stayed here, he knew the situation would get worse. So he persuaded the two of them to make their peace with each other, and then he left. With Alex gone, Karen gradually calmed down and started to feel a little guilty about hitting Zara. Zara giggled when she saw that Karen didn't know how to apologize to her. Karen saw Zara laughing and asked, "Zara, are you all right?" "I just hit Zara," she thought. "Why is she laughing? Has the heavy blow to her head caused some brain damage?" "Karen, I know what you're planning. You hit me now just because you wanted Alex to listen to you, right?" Zara thought that this was Karen's plan. She rubbed her face, which was red and sore, and complained, "Look, Karen, even if you wanted to get his attention, you hit me much too hard. My face is burning and numb." Only then did Karen heave a sigh of relief. Luckily, Zara didn't seem to have any brain damage. "All right, I did hit you too hard. Please don't hate me. Just wait. Once I've got him where I want him, I'll make sure that you benefit too." Karen gently caressed Zara's face as she spoke. Zara replied, "Of course. I know that this guy Robert is from a rich family. When it happens, I know you'll give me thousands of dollars, won't you?" Zara blinked at Karen. However, Zara didn't realize that the person Karen was referring to was not Robert. "Of course," Karen smiled. "As long as everything works out with Alex, tens of thousands of dollars will be nothing," she thought to herself. The two cousins quickly forgot about the previous incident. Zara continued, "That's right. Didn't you say before that a super rich person had been to your bank? Has he been there in the last few days? Can you get his number for me?" Zara's eyes were sparkling. Her heart was filled with anticipation. "Of course you'd chase after him. It takes luck to find such a rich man," Karen thought. "What do you want his cell phone number for?" she asked. "It's difficult to find a rich man. Of course I have to chase this one. I just need his contact information. Then I'll do everything I can to get a date with him," Zara said thoughtfully. "Oh." Karen considered Zara's words and became anxious. "He hasn't come in for a few days. When he does, I'll get his cell phone number for you." "Great, thanks, Karen." Zara smiled sweetly and continued, "I really want to meet that eligible rich guy as soon as possible. I'm imagining him to be very handsome, but it doesn't matter if he isn't, as long as he has money. I want someone as rich as him by my side." Karen secretly rejoiced. Luckily, Zara knew nothing about Alex's situation, and she found that especially funny. "Zara, the eligible rich guy that you dream of is Alex. You said you want to date him, and yet you treat him as a nobody," she thought to herself. While the two cousins were lost in their own thoughts, Alex returned to school. By the time he arrived, it was almost 6 p.m. He felt a little hungry, so he went to the restaurant on campus, Beautiful Cuisine. Beautiful Cuisine was a private restaurant with several times the capacity of the campus cafeteria. There were already quite a few students inside the restaurant. Alex walked toward the front desk and joined the line. Then he heard someone behind him saying in a mocking voice, "Oh man, you'd think people would look in the mirror before they step out of the house. Didn't think I'd see people like that here. A meal at this restaurant is probably like this pauper's monthly living expenses. Why would a hobo like that be willing to spend so much money on one meal? Unless it's stolen money or something. Damn, Alex thought to himself. All I want is to enjoy a delicious meal. Who the hell are these people? Why are they being so mean to me? In Alex's heart, a ball of rage grew. He turned around and saw 3 girls heading toward him. They were all dressed in fashionable clothes, similar to those he'd seen hipsters wearing in the street. However, Alex did not know these 3 people at all. Why are they taunting me if they don't even know me? As Alex was puzzling over this, the 3 girls walked over without looking at him. You're not talking about me, are you? Alex finally understood. The 3 girls walked to the front of the restaurant and stood in front of a 4th girl. The 3 girls crossed their arms and chewed gum as they scanned the girl with disdain. Alex looked at the 4th girl with interest. Her clothes were obviously old and cheap. She was wearing a white t-shirt, jeans that had been in style 7 or 8 years ago, and a pair of canvas shoes that had been washed until they'd faded to white. Everyone look at this girl. Her name is Debbie Stonehill, and she's the poorest person in our class. Every year she gets this scholarship because she's so poor, and look at what she's spending it on, eating at the most expensive restaurant on campus. She's totally shameless, one of the girls said mockingly. Another continued, Debbie, don't you feel embarrassed? You're really poor, right? But now you actually came here to eat and spend the school's money. You are shameless, aren't you? Fine, let's see if you can take what's coming to you, another of the girls threatened. Then the 3 girls started pulling Debbie's hair. One of them was holding her by the hand, while another grabbed Debbie's hair and pulled her back as hard as she could. Debbie was no match for the 3 of them. She struggled but could not break free. She was on the verge of falling down. Alex could finally see Debbie's face clearly. She was pale and was wearing no makeup, but she was very pretty. Her thin lips were tightly pursed and her eyes were closed. No matter how the 3 girls tortured her, she didn't make a sound. In the end, Debbie was thrown to the ground by the 3 of them. Serves you right for being scum. The 3 girls smirked and looked down at Debbie, who'd fallen to the floor. As Debbie was lying on the floor, the waiter came to take her order. He cautiously asked her if she still wanted to order anything. Debbie crawled up from the ground, looked at the waiter, and said, Please bring me 2 plates of seafood risotto and 2 bottles of Evian. I'll take them with me. The seafood risotto cost $25 per serving, and the Evian cost $20 a bottle. Even in comparison to all the other extravagant dishes on the menu, these choices were considered particularly expensive. When the others heard how expensive Debbie's order was, they became very annoyed with her. She deserves to be beaten up for spending so much of her grant, one of them shouted. I can't even afford to drink Evian. I didn't think that a poor person could drink it. I want to tell everyone at school so everyone will hate her. She's going to eat 2 servings at once. She must be a reincarnated hungry ghost, right? Debbie didn't seem to care at all when she heard the ridicule from others. Her gaze was fixed on the chef who was cooking at the window. The 2 seafood risottos were soon ready. Debbie paid and quickly walked out with the food and bottles of Evian mineral water. Watching the girl leave, Alex sighed to himself. That girl was really pretty, he thought, and she knows how to enjoy herself. Her family's living conditions must be so bad that she's prepared to use the grant money to enjoy such expensive food. Then he heard one of the girls say, Oh, there's another pauper here. Look, everyone. Doesn't he look like he should be with Debbie? Look at the clothes he's wearing. He's perfect for her. As Alex turned around, he saw the 3 girls pointing at him. He'd already seen how cruel they were, so he didn't want to get into an argument with them. He finished eating and quickly left the restaurant. When he walked out, Alex could see Debbie's back. Why did this girl buy 2 servings for herself? He wondered. Alex was intrigued and followed behind Debbie, keeping pace with her. He followed her all the way to the school's Ramsey Lake. At this time, there was no one else near the lake. The setting sun shone on the surface of the lake, sparkling and flickering with golden threads. It was especially beautiful. Alex hid behind a tree and watched Debbie. She placed the 2 cartons of risotto and the bottles of mineral water on a rock. Then she sat on the ground beside the rock and slowly started to eat the food. As she ate, 2 streams of tears flowed from her eyes. Alex could even hear her sniffing. Could it be that she's never eaten such an expensive meal and was moved to tears today? He wondered. No one usually brings food to eat by the lake. She's definitely acting strangely. After watching Debbie for a while, he was ready to leave. Suddenly, he saw Debbie put down her food and slowly stand up. Surely you're not going to leave all your trash now you've finished eating, Alex said to himself. This girl's a real punk. However, Debbie didn't leave. Instead, she knelt on the ground, deliberately facing the northeast, and started to pray. What was going on? Why did she have to kneel down and pray after eating? Alex wondered. Then Debbie stood up and walked quickly toward the lake. Is she trying to kill herself? The thought flashed through Alex's mind. Debbie's actions gave him an answer. He watched as she walked to the edge of the lake and jumped into the water with a plop. Episode 22. What's her secret? Alex ran over to the lake the moment he saw Debbie jump in and followed her into the water without a second thought. Fortunately, Alex was a good swimmer, so he grabbed Debbie by her clothes and tried his best to swim toward the shore. What are you doing? Let me die, Debbie shouted. She struggled to get free from Alex's grasp, but he held tight and wouldn't let go. Eventually, with a lot of effort, Alex managed to pull Debbie safely back to the shore. Debbie sat on the grass by the lake and asked in a sad voice, Why did you save me? Why didn't you let me die? Debbie's entire body was drenched. Her clothes were clinging tightly to her body, outlining her delicate figure and making her look extremely pitiful. Why did I save you? Alex caught his breath. He really couldn't understand Debbie's thoughts or actions. You might think you want to die, but have you considered your parents? Who will support them in the future? And the state has supported you for so many years, and this is how you repay society? What are you thinking? Alex wanted to wake Debbie up from her self-pity and give her reasons to want to live. Debbie was a little shocked by Alex's words. She hugged her knees and started to feel calmer. You said you're not afraid of death, but why don't you have the courage to live? Alex's tone became a little gentler. Debbie raised her head and looked at Alex with her big, watery eyes. Her eyes were shining brightly. She broke Alex's heart. He suddenly had a feeling that this girl was not the sort of person he'd thought she was. If it was possible for someone to live, why would they choose to die? Debbie sounded hopeless. If you've got problems, why don't you tell me about them? Maybe I can help you, Alex asked, trying to sound positive. When she saw Alex's sincere gaze, Debbie knew that he really wanted to help her. A warm feeling rose from deep within her heart, making her feel very comfortable. But Debbie's heart chilled when she thought about her situation. You can't help me, she said. Just tell me what it is. Believe me, I can definitely help you, Alex replied. Coming from such a rich family, he was sure that he could easily help her. I'm really grateful that you want to help me, but forget it. There's nothing you can do. Debbie smiled faintly. She felt that this stranger in front of her was very kind. Okay, Alex sighed. He continued in a serious tone. But I hope at least you'll promise me not to do such a stupid thing again. All right, I promise, Debbie responded. Alex felt reassured. He pulled Debbie up from the ground and said, Oh yeah, and don't buy such expensive food in the future. I don't think it's something you and your family can really afford. Debbie's face reddened, and she lowered her head slightly. She tugged at her clothes with both hands and whispered, Actually, I normally eat for less than $2 a day. I thought today was my last day on Earth, so I plucked up the courage to go to the restaurant for seafood risotto. Listening to Debbie's gentle voice, Alex's heart couldn't help but soften. Then why did you order 2 servings? I know it's too extravagant to eat $40 in a single meal, But to save money, I haven't eaten for the past 2 days, so I'm really hungry. That's why I ordered 2 servings. Debbie's voice was becoming softer and softer. I understand, Alex replied. Looking at the shy and timid Debbie, he decided that she was exceptionally cute. Come here. Debbie pulled Alex back to the stone where she'd left the food. She smiled warmly at Alex, then gave him a container of risotto. Here, eat. Alex quickly refused. No need. Aren't you hungry? You eat it up, he said. A few minutes later, Debbie said, It's good that you haven't just eaten. I just realized that I can only eat one of these meals after all. I'm already full. Here, you have it. Debbie raised her chin. Okay. Alex took the carton and sat on the stone to eat. You sit down too, Alex said while eating. Debbie was watching him, and it made him feel self-conscious. Okay. Debbie sat beside him. Alex had just used a lot of energy saving Debbie and was now very hungry. He ate quickly, and some grains of rice stuck to his face. Alex and Debbie chatted as they ate. Only then did Alex find out that Debbie had been praying to her mother in her hometown in the Northeast, begging forgiveness for her actions. By the time they'd finished eating, they both felt that there was something special between them. Can I see you tomorrow? Alex scratched his head and asked with a hint of embarrassment. I have a really good feeling about Debbie, he thought, and I really want to protect her. I'll be really upset if I can't see her again. Debbie was surprised by Alex's question, and she blushed. She listened to her heart and responded, Sure. The next day at noon, as soon as Alex had finished his classes, he went straight to Ramsey Lake. There he saw a delicate figure sitting on the same rock as yesterday. He walked over with his heart fluttering. Debbie heard his footsteps and turned around. In her hand was a red and yellow plastic bag. She stood up and handed the bag to him, saying, This is for you. Alex was pleasantly surprised. He took the plastic bag from her and saw that it contained peaches, plums, and apricots. The fruit were in pieces with droplets of water on them. Did you buy this fruit just for me? He asked. It's too expensive. Please don't buy it in future, he continued, although he was deeply touched. I know that many people eat fruit every day, but for Debbie, eating fresh fruit is a luxury, he thought. Eat them, Debbie replied. These fruits are all in season now, so they're not expensive. And they're leftovers that no one else wanted. The shop manager sold them to me at half price. I'll clean them up and dig out the bad bits for you. Don't worry about it, Debbie said with some doubt. How could I not worry? Alex was surprised by Debbie. She'd saved up some money to buy me fruit, yet she has so many of her own problems on her mind. Alex picked up a peach and stuffed it into his mouth, splattering the juice everywhere. Yum! It's really delicious, he said. Why don't you have some too? This peach is so sweet. Alex picked up a peach and gave it to Debbie. Debbie looked at Alex, who was happily eating, and smiled sweetly as she put the peach into her mouth. Over the next few days, Alex and Debbie would meet at the lake at noon every day. Each day, Alex would first eat at the cafeteria, then bring food to eat again with Debbie. Debbie was always pleased to see him. Of course, the dishes that Alex brought were all the most basic ones. He wasn't ready yet for Debbie to find out who he really was. One particular day, Alex packed a second serving of soup and vegetable stir-fry and went to Ramsey Lake. Strangely, Debbie wasn't there. She should be here by now, Alex said to himself. I wonder what's keeping her today. Alex sat calmly on the rock and thought, Debbie's never been out for a proper meal before. She's bound to be thrilled when I take her to the best restaurant in New York. He sat on the rock and waited for 20 minutes, but Debbie still didn't come. Seeing the food was getting cold, he took out his phone and called her. Debbie, where are you? He asked. She answered. I'm sorry, Alex. I can't make it today. Our class is doing experiments in the laboratory and I can't leave. Okay. Alex looked at his phone and had an idea. Debbie can't come to me, but I can take the food to her. He picked up the food and walked quickly toward the laboratory building. When he arrived, he called Debbie. He told her that he'd arrived and asked her which laboratory she was in. "Oh," she answered. "You came to the laboratory? I'm leaving now. Eat by yourself today. Don't worry about me." Debbie's voice sounded strained, and when Alex asked where she was, she hung up the phone. Alex had a bad feeling. Is Debbie hiding something from me? He wondered, and he felt increasingly uneasy. He ran out of the lab, threw his food into the trash can, and started to look for Debbie anywhere he could think of. The cafeteria, the supermarket, the lab. He looked everywhere he thought she might be, but he couldn't find her, and she wasn't answering his calls. Alex had run out of options. His heart felt in disarray. He walked despondently to the playing field, sat down on the grass, and, still in a daze, watched people jogging around the track. Suddenly, his eyes lit up as he saw a petite figure sitting in the corner of the stands. He was sure it was Debbie. He felt invigorated as he quickly stood up and ran toward her. "Debbie, why didn't you answer my calls?" He asked Debbie as he walked up to her. He was still feeling upset, but when she raised her head, he was shocked. Debbie's face was battered and bruised, and her eyes were swollen. Her pretty face was a mess. Episode 23, Facing the Bullies. "What happened?" Alex asked. A ball of anger rose in his chest. "Nothing. Why are you here?" Debbie answered. She'd been focusing on wiping the wounds with a cotton swab and alcohol, so she hadn't noticed when Alex arrived. She lowered her head and covered her face with her hands. "Let me see," Alex said as he sat beside her. He grabbed her hand and slowly pulled it down. Close up, the wounds on Debbie's face were even more shocking. One of the cuts was still bleeding. "Tell me who did this to you." Alex's heart ached when he saw her face. "Okay, it was Madison Robbins and her friends, but it's okay, they just nudged me a little," Debbie said timidly. "The 3 girls who were teasing you that day in the beautiful cuisine, right? I'll go find them now and teach them a lesson." Alex stood up and prepared to find Madison and the others to give them a piece of his mind. "Don't." Debbie quickly pulled Alex back. "It's not as simple as you think. Madison has powerful friends. If you have a go at them now, we'll be the ones to suffer in the end." "Then we'll just let them bully you forever?" Alex frowned as he glanced at Debbie. Debbie lowered her head slightly at Alex's words and whispered, "I'm doing this for your own good. I'll just stay away from them in the future." "All right." Alex's heart softened. Debbie's considering my safety even now, he thought. But why is such a kind girl being bullied? "Come on, I'll take you to the hospital now." Alex held Debbie's hand and was about to leave. "No need, the hospital is very expensive. I don't have that kind of money," she whispered and stayed where she was. "You don't have to pay." Alex looked at Debbie helplessly and pulled her toward the hospital. Debbie's injuries were quickly dealt with, and Alex paid the bill. "Thank you, I'll pay you back." Debbie looked at Alex and felt very happy. She could feel his concern for her. She'd never had a man care about her like he did. "We'll talk about it in the future," Alex said. He didn't care about the money. "You haven't eaten, right? I'll take you to a nice place to eat." "Nice place?" Debbie opened her eyes wide. She felt uncomfortable and wasn't sure she wanted to go. She'd never eaten a $5 meal in the cafeteria, much less an expensive meal in a nice restaurant. She continued, "Let's not, it's too expensive. I think the food in the cafeteria is pretty good." But Alex interrupted her. He shook his head and smiled. Then he took her hand and led her away from the campus. "Just follow me. Please, just eat and don't worry about anything today," he said. Arriving at the Dahlia restaurant, Debbie felt a little nervous because Alex looked like he didn't fit in any better than she did. Did he actually come to this restaurant? She wondered. It's not all a joke, is it? But when she saw Alex calmly ordering the food, Debbie relaxed. She started to think that Alex was a bit of a mystery. He seemed very worldly and experienced. Then Alex said, "Wait for me here. I need to go to the bathroom. I'll be back soon." He walked to the restroom. Debbie sat alone in her seat, looking around her. She'd never been to such a sophisticated restaurant before, and so she was curious about everything. Then she heard a voice from one side. "Is that Debbie?" the voice said. Debbie's nerves tensed up, and she clenched her fists tightly. She knew it was Madison. "Yeah, it really is her. I thought I must be mistaken." Madison stood in front of Debbie, looking at her with a sneer. Madison's two friends stood next to her. One of them shouted, "Have you gone crazy over the last few days? First you ate at the beautiful cuisine, and now you're being even more extravagant. To think that you would actually dare to come and eat here." Madison took over. "You really are shameless, spending your scholarship this way. We only come here once a week. You're a poor loser who can't even afford to eat. What gives you the right to eat here?" As she spoke, Madison pulled sharply on Debbie's hair. Debbie's head was pulled back, revealing her snow-white neck. "Please don't hit me here," she cried. "When we get back to the campus, you can do whatever you want to me." Debbie didn't want Alex to see her getting beaten up. When they heard Debbie pleading for mercy, Madison and the other two felt even happier. They all started laughing gleefully. "She's trying to trick us. In the past, she's never even made a sound when we hit her, let alone begging for mercy." Madison sneered as she grabbed Debbie's hair and pulled her back with all her strength. Bringing her face right up to Debbie, she said, "Since you asked me to let you go, I'm not going to. That'll be proof that you're my bitch, a dog under my control." With that, Madison flung Debbie off and raised her arm to slap her. The wounds on Debbie's face had just started to heal, but with one slap from Madison, a few of them split open again. It was extremely painful. Debbie tried to get away. "Bitch, get back here," Madison shouted. "Stop running and maybe I won't beat you to death tonight when we get back to the dorms." Madison and her friends gestured angrily at Debbie. Debbie wasn't an idiot. She knew she had to get out of there as quickly as she could. As Debbie was trying to get away, she bumped into a sturdy body. "It's Alex," she thought, and her heart slowed. Alex had already guessed what was happening when he saw the state Debbie was in, and then saw Madison and her friends. He held Debbie and looked coldly at Madison. Madison barely looked at Alex as she said, "Hey, isn't this the other pauper who was eating at beautiful cuisine? Did these two people stay together? Ha! It really is a good match." One of her friends joined in. "I was wondering why she's loitering outside for the past few days. It looks like she's been stealing men outside. You shameless little whore. Luckily you're the only one that deserves such a poor loser." "Why did you hit her?" Alex asked calmly. Madison laughed and answered with disdain. "Why? Do we still need a reason to beat a pauper? Debbie's just a dog for us to have fun with in our dorm. Does a master need to have a reason to hit his dog?" "I'm warning you, don't touch her again," Alex said with a cold stare. "Yeah, right. You still want to stick up for this girl, right? Come on, try touching me if you have something to say. I told you if you try anything, then we'll bully her even more in the future. There's nothing you can do to stop me," Madison said provocatively. Alex went to slap Madison, but Debbie pulled him back and shook her head at him. Just then, 3 men walked into the restaurant and walked toward Madison. They were all elegantly dressed and were clearly here to meet Madison and her friends for a meal. "Miss Robbins, what's going on? Did this fool provoke you?" A stocky man with a crew cut pointed at Alex as he spoke to Madison. Another man with tattoos on his arms addressed Alex. "Idiot, someone like you dares to try it on Miss Robbins? Let me tell you right now, we are all from the Kappa Alpha Society. If you know what's good for you, you'll stay away from us." The remaining man even pushed Alex away. "Get lost or I might hit you right now." He wanted to fight with them, but Debbie held his hand and whispered in his ear, "Let's go." Alex realized that it would be stupid to fight with them right now. He didn't care what happened to him, but he didn't want Debbie to get hurt again. Instead, he followed Debbie toward the door. "Aren't you helping your little girlfriend out? Oh, what a shame. If I had a boyfriend like you, I'd definitely dump him." Madison stood behind him with her arms crossed and mocked him proudly. "What is the Kappa Alpha Society?" Alex asked Debbie as they walked out of the restaurant. Debbie replied. It's an organization near our school. They're very powerful. Madison and the rest belong to the Kappa Alpha Society. That's why we can't afford to get on the wrong side of them. That's why I stopped you just now. Alex didn't say anything. In his heart, he'd secretly decided that he must find a way to let Debbie know that he, Alex, was not someone to be trifled with. Oh yeah, and I've decided to move out of the dorm. Debbie looked at Alex and continued. I've checked around the school and I found a room. There's only one bed and no internet, but I think it's pretty good. I'm going to rent it. When Alex heard this, he agreed wholeheartedly. If Debbie lived outside, she wouldn't be bullied by Madison. However, the room she'd found was much too basic. Alex decided to surprise her by finding her a better room. Alex took Debbie to the hospital to have her wound rebandaged. Then they ate a meal in the cafeteria before parting ways. The next day, Alex took a taxi and directly went to the Green Island Garden District, an upper-class residential district close to Preston University. Alex had been thinking about it all day. I've got money now, he thought. Why shouldn't I buy a house for Debbie to live in? It'll be much more comfortable for her than renting a room. The Green Island Garden District was a small and exclusive residential area that had been developed over recent years. It was convenient for transportation, had a superior position, and had first-rate facilities. It was a super luxurious small district of New York. Alex went straight to the sales office. The current manager, Darla, was prettier than the last. Selling a property here earned her a commission of $50,000. Alex had heard from his classmates that Darla was therefore willing to do shameful things for her customers in order to sell houses. Usually, when Darla and the other salespeople saw a customer enter, they would immediately greet them with a smile. However, when they saw Alex enter, no one went up to greet him. Episode 24. 1 or 2 luxury villas. Alex sighed. As he walked over to the desk, he accidentally bumped into a lady who had just entered the office. Ah, watch out. Look what you did. You almost stepped on my new shoes. Can you even afford a property from here? Seriously? The woman had short brown hair. She wore sunglasses, a long figure-hugging dress, and a pair of high-heeled crystal sandals. Although she looked to be in her mid-30s, her exposed arms were as white as snow. Behind the woman, there was a man wearing jeans, a white vest, brown leather sandals, and carrying a bag under his arm. He said, "Don't waste your time talking to someone like that, baby. Let's go outside and take a look." Darla quickly walked over and warmly greeted the couple. Then she glanced at Alex, looking irritated with him. "Sorry, you've had a bad experience in our office," she said. "The people around here know that this is a high-class residential area, so some people who can't afford to buy a house often come to our sales office to enjoy the free air conditioning," Darla explained to the lady in dark glasses. Of course, Alex knew that she was talking about him. He just smiled and said, "So you think I can't afford a house at all? How much would it cost to buy the whole residential area?" Darla looked at Alex and said, "Sir, the minimum price for a house here is $500,000. I can tell from looking at you that it's not something you can afford." Darla gestured toward the door, smiling as she pursed her lips. Alex ignored her and said, "I'll take a look here. If there's a suitable property, I'll buy it." He walked over to the sales desk to check for himself. This really annoyed Darla. "You want to buy a property here?" she demanded. "You're shameless about being here. But I think you just want to stay in the air conditioning for a while longer." Ignoring Alex, Darla ushered the couple to the sales desk and began showing them properties. After discussing various properties for about 10 minutes, the man decided which house they wanted to buy. "I'll take that villa," he said. "We've come here several times before, and that one always catches my eye." Darla replied, "A great choice, sir. You have a good eye. This villa is the most popular one in our district, with 2,500 square feet with 4 bedrooms. It is spacious and has good lighting. The surroundings are very quiet, and it's very close to the lake." She praised the man enthusiastically, and finally brought up the subject of payment. "This property costs $1.5 million. You'll need to pay 30% or $450,000 as a down payment. The man was shocked. He exclaimed, "So much? On your advertisement, I'm sure it said the price wasn't that high." "Oh, that advertisement was from a few months ago. These villas are selling very quickly, so several months ago we had increased the price," Darla replied. When she noticed the shocked expression on the man's face, she started to lose enthusiasm. She realized that this couple couldn't afford to pay the price of the villa. She continued, "So a lot of people have inquired about this villa. If you really want to buy it, you need to pay the deposit today, because it could easily be sold by tomorrow." "Hubby, hurry up and think of a way to get the money," the lady in shade said as she held onto the man's hand. "I really like this villa, and there's nothing else here that I like. Didn't you say that living in this villa is the only way to raise our status in society and give the impression you need to give for our business? Can't you see I'm trying to find a way?" The man replied as he looked at Darla. He continued, "I will definitely buy this villa. You can keep it for me for now. I guarantee that I'll raise the money within 10 days. "I'm sorry, sir, but I don't have the authority to do that," Darla replied, shaking her head. "Hubby, hurry up and borrow money from your friends. I can also borrow money from my friends. We must buy this villa," the woman urged. The couple knew that to be able to afford a villa in the Green Island Garden District would demonstrate that they were among the richest people in New York. In the future, they would be superior to their friends and relatives, and they'd gain the respect and envy of others. This would definitely benefit their business. They both took out their cell phones and began to call their friends. "This villa is pretty good." Alex looked at the information about the mansion and said, "I'll buy this villa." "You're buying it? How could you?" The woman looked at Alex with malice. "It's a struggle, but we really want to buy it." Darla didn't take Alex's words seriously. In fact, her opinion of Alex became even worse. She felt that Alex must be up to something sinister. With an angry expression on her face, she approached Alex and demanded, "Sir, please leave now. We have work to do." "I want to buy a house. Why are you kicking me out? Do you want me to file a complaint against you?" Alex replied angrily. "Okay, you want to buy a house, right? Here's how much money you'll need. This property is worth $1.5 million. If you can pay for it, it's yours," Darla said impatiently. She didn't tell Alex about the 30% down payment because she didn't believe that Alex would buy it. She thought he was here causing trouble for no reason. Alex was indifferent. He took out his Metro Skybank card from his pocket and showed it to her. "Can I pay on my card?" he asked. The man sneered at Alex and said, "You think you can pay on a card? You loser. Even if you had the amount in cash, I wouldn't believe you could buy this villa. If you really can buy this villa, I'll kneel down before you and call you sir." "Then let's give it a try." Alex handed the card to Darla. She took the card and went over to the card machine. "I know when I swipe this card, I'll hear a beep indicating that it's a fake card," she thought. "Then I can call the security guards and throw them out." The card flashed across the machine. According to the computer, $1.5 million had already been spent on the card. When Darla saw this information on the computer, she was dumbfounded. This poor loser. It seemed that he hadn't lied. He really had spent $1.5 million on his card. Noticing Darla's confusion, everyone else in the office gathered around her and read information on the computer. The couple hoping to buy the house looked at Alex in disbelief. Does he really have so much money when his clothes are so shabby? I can't even afford 30% of the money, yet a 20-year-old brat like him can actually pay the whole amount? The man thought, scratching his head, unable to believe what was happening. He thought about how he'd mocked Alex and felt ashamed. When they realized he was rich, all the staff in the sales office had completely changed their attitudes toward Alex. They all looked at him with a smile. A few of the salespeople even ignored the other customers and offered to make coffee for Alex or to bring him fresh water. They all became very friendly. There were only a handful of people who could afford to buy a villa worth $1.5 million without thinking. What really surprised them was that Alex was still so young. He was clearly doing far better than most of his peers and had a really golden future ahead of him. "Sir, I apologize. I should have helped you sooner. Let me tell you more about the property. The villa you've bought is 2,500 square feet. Darla smiled sweetly, trying to make her voice as friendly as possible. Now she knew he was rich. She wouldn't hesitate to agree to do anything that Alex requested, even if it was against the law. Alex thought for a moment, then said, "Well, let's have a look. Although this house isn't that great, it's still better than the dormitory at school. I guess it'll do for now." No one could believe that Alex was comparing this high-end villa worth $1.5 million with a university dorm. They didn't know Alex's true identity and couldn't comprehend what he was saying. They found him very arrogant. One of them said, "Wow, now I think he's intentionally showing off his wealth in front of us. You'd think that buying such an expensive villa would be enough." Another joined in. "Everyone don't fall for it. I'm sure he's exaggerating just to look cool in front of us. I bet he's got real problems." "I'm exaggerating?" Alex shook his head and smiled as he glanced at the others. "To be honest, I could just as easily buy a nightclub." When they heard this, the others couldn't hold back their laughter. A nightclub would cost $5 million. This villa was $1.5 million. You surely don't have that sort of money, they each thought. "If you're as rich as you say, why don't you buy that super luxurious villa on Emerald Island?" a middle-aged man said to Alex and pointed at a villa on the sales desk. "All right." Alex agreed without even looking at it. "Sir, are you really going to buy that villa?" Darla looked at Alex in surprise. "It's the best villa on the complex, built on an island in the lake, with its own courtyard, swimming pool, and the most luxurious interior design. And it's equipped with the most advanced internet service." She continued, "Our district is called the Green Island Garden, and this villa has the same name, Emerald Island, which shows you how exclusive this villa is. Do you really want to buy it?" Darla was shocked, sure that Alex was just bragging. When the developers built the villa, they'd not planned to sell it for at least 10 years. The main purpose of building the villa was to demonstrate the high quality of the residential area. They felt that if people saw a villa there worth $40 million, they'd be convinced that this is the most luxurious and desirable residential area in New York. "Right, do I look like I'm joking?" Alex asked casually. "How much are you selling it for?" $40 million, Darla said. She still couldn't quite work Alex out. Alex nodded. He took out his cell phone and called the Metro Skybank's customer manager, Robert Miller, and asked him to transfer $40 million to Green Island Gardens' account. Everyone in the office was still waiting for Alex to tell them it was all a joke. When the $40 million arrived, no one could believe it. The saleswomen surrounded Alex. Their eyes were full of passion, each suddenly finding Alex irresistibly attractive. He can lay his hands on $40 million with just a phone call, they all thought to themselves. How often do I get the chance to meet such a rich and handsome young man? Somehow I need to attract him. Imagine if he fancies me. Alex was unable to catch his breath as he was surrounded by more than 10 beautiful young women. He simply squeezed through the crowd and quickly walked out of the sales office. Episode 25, A Shop for Alex. After Alex left, the lady in shades realized that her favorite villa had just been bought. She couldn't help feeling upset and burst into tears in the shop. Owning a villa in the Green Island Garden District would have been a status symbol. Now she'd lost that chance. Her husband, Jack Sanders, also had a pained expression on his face. He was heartbroken, but he knew that he couldn't compete with Alex's wealth. He knew that Alex had won. Just then, another professionally dressed woman walked into the sales office. She was none other than Rose Scott's aunt, Sue Bradley. "Claire, why are you crying?" she asked worriedly as she walked toward the lady in dark glasses. Claire sobbed again when she heard her sister-in-law's voice. Originally, her intention had been to show off in front of Sue and belittle her, but now that Alex had bought the villa, She had nothing to boast about. Sue must be laughing at me, she thought. Claire immediately stopped crying. It's okay, I've just got sand in my eyes, she said. How has she got sand in her eyes? Sue wondered. Where did the sand come from in this sales office? Sue said, Claire and Jack, have you really bought a villa here? That's fantastic. This is where the elite of New York live. You should know that in the future, we'll be the most important people in New York. This is where the elite live, and we definitely belong here, Claire answered proudly. In order to not be embarrassed in front of Sue, she decided to pretend that they'd already bought the villa. Darla, who remained to one side, saw this, and her face turned pale. She said to herself, I can't believe this woman actually dared to say she'd bought a villa in our district. This woman who just now was crying as if her parents had just died. I'd like to see what you'll do when people ask to see your villa. Alex left the sales office and made another decision. Today I'm going to buy myself a car, he said to himself. I'm super rich, and it's crazy that I don't have a car. Alex went straight to New York Automobiles, which had the most advanced and best performance cars in the world. Alex strolled around the car dealership and took a fancy to a Ferrari. To him it looked beautiful and gave off an aura of power. He knew it was also one of the most advanced in its performance. When he asked the salesperson, he was told that this Ferrari can also be custom-made for the customer. Alex knew he wanted to buy it, so he got straight to the point. He ordered a custom-made Ferrari and all the components that would ensure that it was the best. The salesperson was very suspicious of Alex until Alex asked Robert Miller of the Sky Metro Bank to transfer half of the $400,000 to the car dealership's account number. The salesperson was stunned. He almost felt that he should be worshipping at Alex's feet. His attitude toward Alex had changed. The manager of the car dealership and all the other employees gathered around Alex and looked at him ingratiatingly. Once Alex had finished buying the car and started to leave the dealership, everyone in the shop cheered. Several passers-by were confused about the cheering and assumed it must be an important government official who'd come to inspect the place. Alex felt relieved once he'd left the shop and said to himself, I was only buying a car. They didn't need to make such a fuss. Just as he was to take a taxi back to school, he received a call from Lucy Smith. Last time they'd met, Lucy had saved her number in his phone, so her name came up on the screen. Lucy said she had something to talk to him about. Lucy said that he was currently free, and they agreed to meet. About 10 minutes later, a Mercedes-Benz pulled up to where Alex was waiting. Alex, get in. Rolling down the car window, Lucy called out to him with a smile. Lucy had wavy hair. She was wearing an elegant dress and looked very charming. Alex felt slightly nervous as he got into the car. Mrs. Smith, why are you looking for me? You'll know in a while, Lucy replied mysteriously. She started the engine, and the Mercedes-Benz started moving along the wide New York streets. A black seatbelt was wedged across Lucy's chest, exposing her womanly figure. The seatbelt swayed slightly as the car drove on. Since getting into the car, Alex's line of sight had been focused on her chest 80% of the time. Lucy felt her seatbelt tighten across her chest as she adjusted it. It made no difference. As soon as the car moved forward, Alex could see her sizable chest bouncing up and down suggestively. This scene made Alex cough violently, and a stream of bright red blood flowed out from his nose. Alex, are you okay? Lucy asked quickly. Secretly, she was pleased with herself. Clearly, her body was still attractive, even to this rich and handsome young man. I'm fine, Alex said as he raised his head and pinched his nose. There's tissue paper in the glove compartment. Please help yourself, Lucy said to Alex. He opened the glove compartment, took out a tissue, and wiped the blood from his nose. Hey, what's this? Alex asked himself as he saw that inside the glove compartment there were several items of underwear, stockings, silky bras, and even lacy panties. Seeing this, Alex became even more restless. He couldn't hide his arousal much longer. Alex, I'm sorry. I was too anxious just now and forgot they were in there, Lucy said shyly. Actually, She'd put the undergarments in there on purpose. Alex was such a rich and handsome young man. Of course, any woman would want to be with him. Lucy hoped that the suggestive underwear would be enough to ignite Alex's passion. She didn't expect Alex simply to close the storage box after a few seconds. "Alex, this is the first time I've bought these sorts of things. I've never been touched by a man. If you like, I'll drive the car to the underground garage. There'll be no one in there, and you can do whatever you like," Lucy said coyly. Alex smiled awkwardly. "Maybe next time," he said. Although Alex was attracted to Lucy, as any man would be, it didn't mean that he wanted to sleep around. Lucy, on the other hand, was very disappointed. She tried to make herself feel better, telling herself, "Alex is a superior to any other man and is worth the wait. I just need to be patient." Just then the car stopped. Alex got out of the car and looked to see where they were. They were outside New York's busiest shopping center, the fashionable Letty Shopping Mall. After locking the car, Lucy dragged Alex into the mall and headed straight for a first-floor boutique called Autumn Beauty that sold particularly elegant and exclusive brands of clothes. "Lucy's here to ask me to buy her clothes," Alex thought. As soon as they entered the store, the manager walked over with a smile. He looked at Lucy and nodded his head slightly, saying, "Mrs. Smith, I'm delighted to see you." "Mrs. Smith? Is Lucy a regular customer here?" Alex asked himself. "Alex, this is one of my shops," Lucy explained to Alex as she saw his confusion. Then she looked at the shop manager and said, "Russell, from now on, Alex is the owner of this boutique. We must listen to everything he says." "Excuse me?" Russell didn't understand. But since it was Lucy that had said it, he could only do as she said. "Yes, I understand," he replied. "What do you mean?" Alex asked. He didn't understand what Lucy was saying. Lucy replied, "This is the decision that has been passed down from the senior members of the family. I'm just making it happen. Alex, sooner or later you will have to join the family business empire. You must start with this store and gradually learn the ropes." Lucy knew that the family wanted Alex to run this shop to gain management experience. "Oh, all right then," Alex agreed. Eventually, he knew he would have to inherit his family's business. "Good," Lucy smiled. She found Alex very agreeable. "Alex, I'm traveling to the Southwest later today to check on my family's gold business. I will be gone for several weeks." "Okay, sure," Alex replied. In his head, he was thinking, "It'll be more than a month before I get the Ferrari. During this time, I'll be able to drive Lucy's car." Russell, who was standing at the side, was confused. He had no idea that his boss was one of the country's richest men. He assumed that Alex was just someone without much to his name. When they'd finalized everything at Autumn Beauty, Alex drove Lucy directly to the airport. She was traveling to the Southwest that very day. After seeing Lucy off, Alex drove the car around New York. "This large Mercedes-Benz is great to drive, and the other cars definitely stay out of my way," he thought. Alex saw a Shrimp King restaurant on the side of the road and decided he'd like some of their lobster. So he drove the car over and parked up. It was almost time to eat, so he decided to buy some lobster to take back to eat with Debbie. The parking attendant at the entrance was dozing, but when he noticed a Mercedes-Benz pulling up, he immediately woke up. He smiled and bowed his head, waiting for Alex to climb out of the car so that he could park it. As Alex walked to the door of the store, he noticed several dollar bills falling out of the pocket of the person in front of him. He smiled wryly and put the banknotes in his pocket. "Alex, are you here begging for money?" he heard from behind him. He turned around and saw a group of people walking toward him. Leading the group was the cheerleader, Zara Fitzgerald.
Thank you for listening to Crown TV. Please don't forget to subscribe, share and turn on the notification button.